Hi, welcome to video 3. We're still looking at section B2, but we are looking at the recovery of energy systems in relation to nutrition. The three main areas we're going to look at with nutrition are to rehydrate, to rebuild, and to replenish. So let's have a look at endurance athletes, and I've split this video into endurance athletes, into power athletes, and then into hydration. So an athlete exercising for 30 minutes or more at moderate to high intensity is considered someone who would benefit from a shorter recovery if they supplement their diet. So let's have a look at what they might be doing. 30 minutes or more of moderate to high, so they could be playing a netball match or a football match, or they could be going out for a jog. We know that glycogen is stored in the muscles and the liver, and we're aware that it does get depleted fairly quickly, and that's within 2 hours of sort of moderate activity. Now our stores, which we know 350 grams in the muscles and 100 in the liver, that's actually not a great deal. So we've got relatively small stores of glycogen in the body, which means that we don't really have enough in there for a 4-hour marathon, say. So we would then need to supplement our diet or take some sort of nutrition on board while we're doing the activity. For someone who is exercising for 60 minutes or more, they'd benefit from fuel within the activity itself, as I mentioned above. And that supplementation would be in the form of a simple carbohydrate, something that's already partly broken down, if you like. It's not a big molecule, it's quite a small molecule, and that would be a sugar, for example, glucose. I want to point out that diets are not weight loss programs. They are about what you put in your body, and they are not necessarily to do with weight loss. I also wanted to expel the myth that supplement or to supplement means that they have to be artificials like protein bars or protein shakes. To supplement your diet means to add something to it, and that can be food. So daily diets for an endurance athlete should contain around 70% of the macronutrient carbohydrate. A macronutrient is either a carbohydrate, a protein, or a fat. If you increase the duration and the intensity of your training, then you would not increase this as a percentage, but the amount of what you would take on board, the amount of calories, the amount of food would increase. These endurance athletes, because they're enduring exercise for a sustained period of time, they need to have sufficient amounts of carbohydrate every day. At the end of your training session, it is important to replace that glycogen with carbohydrate. And there is something called the golden window, which is 2-hour window after exercise is finished, where actually your body is more able to break it down. So it happens quicker, which means you can recover quicker. The first 30 minutes after exercise, if you can stomach food or a carbohydrate drink or a supplement as such as that, may be even more beneficial for you. When you're taking on carbohydrate, it is recommended that you take on 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. So if you're an average 60 kilogram person, then you would be taking on 60 grams of carbohydrate to recover. This is not something you need to learn off by heart, but this gives a general understanding and idea of what we're looking at here. In terms of light intensity for under an hour, if you exercise 3 to 5 times a week, then you would want 5 kilograms of carbohydrate 5 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight. This doubles when we go up to somebody who is doing a high intensity for 4 or more hours, 7 times a week. So we're looking at an actual athlete, and so you can see here the amount of carbohydrate they need to take on board is almost double that of someone who lives quite a sedentary lifestyle. So have a look at this table, understand the table, but by no means do you need to have to regurgitate this for the exam. So what do all these things look like? If we are looking at about 100 grams of carbohydrates, this is what we'd be looking at. So we've got 4 new potatoes, or a medium-sized sweet potato, or some brown pasta here, or 4 slices of bread. So now I would like you to have a look at doing some exam questions on carbohydrate, but I want us to practice our 3-part answer. So this is how we're going to get 4 markers and above in the exam. So it's about stating a fact, extending our answer, and then telling us what the impact is. So I've done a little example for us. Carbohydrate is stored as glycogen in the muscles and the liver. That's fact, textbook fact. It is broken down into glucose and used for energy. So we've extended the comment. The impact is it is quick to break down, so it can be used for moderate intensity of exercise. In this case, a 60-minute bike ride. So I've given an example as well. So I've fully extended. Let's look at these ones. Sticking with your 3-part answer, the fact, an extension and the impact, I want you to try and finish off these sentence starters. Carbohydrate stores in our body last, and I'd like you to finish it off. Please use your notes before. The second one is a glucose drink would be consumed when, and finish it off. To ensure glycogen stores are replenished, the body will, and finish it off. Please use your notes. So pause the video, write your answers down, and then move on. So here's some answers for you. So compare these to the ones you've written and see how you've got on. So carbohydrate stores in our body last approximately 2 hours. So when exercising for over an hour, an athlete should take on board additional carbohydrate in the form of glucose. This is to ensure that they have enough energy to continue for the duration of the race. A glucose drink would be consumed during activities lasting over 60 minutes. This would replenish muscle and liver glycogen stores and increase blood glucose levels to ensure they have enough energy to continue for the duration of the race and ensure they remain hydrated for the delivery of nutrients and oxygen. The last question, or the last sentence starter, was to ensure glycogen stores are replenished after an exercise session. It is recommended an athlete consumes carbohydrates within a 2-hour window. It is during this time that carbohydrates can be broken down faster, therefore replacing glycogen stores more rapidly. This would reduce our recovery time and enable our athlete to perform the next day, or perhaps train the next day. Please excuse my toes. So let's try a question this time. Jenna is training for a marathon. She runs 5 kilometres a day. After 3 days, her times have increased, not a good thing, and she feels weak. Explain a carbohydrate-based nutritional strategy that could help her recovery. Could you pause the video again, please? Write your answer and then check in a moment. So the answer I've got here with a 3-part answer again, so I hope you've stuck to that, is Jenna could consume carbohydrates after her training run in the form of food, like pasta for example, or as a supplement like an energy drink. It is recommended that this is done within 2 hours. This enables carbohydrate to be broken down and stored at a faster rate, therefore reducing recovery time, allowing her to have sufficient stores of glycogen for the next day's training. Other answers that you may have had, you may have mentioned carbohydrate gels for a 5 kilometre training run to prevent depletion of glycogen stores, so you've gone during the race rather than at the end. So she has enough energy for completion of the run and maintain, or better still, improve her previous times. So I found a question on this in the exam, even though it's not in our textbook. So I'm going over it because it is quite basic actually in terms of what the exam expected you to know. So this is called glycogen loading, or what you might have referred to in the past as carbo loading. Now, it's a myth that you just eat more and more carbohydrate, because the downside of that would be you'd be bloated, you'd be full up, you'd probably feel sick when you started running. So actually what you do in the week leading up to the event, you reduce the volume of training. That can be through intensity or duration or both. You would continue to eat your 70% based carbohydrate diet, but because you are training less, you're not going to be depleting the stores like you were previously. So eating the same amount means it's not going to affect your digestive system, but you can replenish your glycogen stores over the week, which means when you start your event, you're going to have fully stocked stores in your muscles and in your liver. It might be an idea to pause the video and have a little break now. We're moving on to power athletes. So we're not looking at carbohydrate predominantly anymore. We'll be looking at protein predominantly. So anyone performing in high intensity or short duration activities, so you know those sorts of activities where we're using the ATP PC system predominantly, those ones that involve using strength, speed and power, events such as weightlifting, sprinting, shot put, things like that. There's an increased need for protein to recover. We need this because working at high intensity means we are going to have micro tears in our skeletal muscle. Obviously this is dependent and in direct relationship to the intensity and the volume. So the higher the intensity, the more chance or the greater number of micro tears you're going to have. Now micro tears are fine, they're a positive thing, and they can be repaired using protein. These protein is also used for general muscle growth and hypertrophy, which means that your muscles are getting bigger. Again, when we calculate our intake, we should use that relative to our body weight. So it's grams per kilogram. Again, here's a little table. You do not need to learn this off by heart. But you can see just generally that someone who has a sedentary lifestyle, they're not training heavy weights or high intensity, needs less than 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. Whereas somebody who is trying to build muscle, an adult building muscle, is 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So I've done a few calculations here, and you can pause and have a little look at that if you want to. So research says that actually there's a limit to how much protein that you can take on board in one go, and that's limited to around 30 to 35 grams. So although you may need more than that over the day, you can only really absorb 30 to 35 grams at a time. So for that reason, we should be eating protein throughout the day and the evening. We obviously know that after an exercise session, this is going to be beneficial, because this is when we probably need it the most. This is when we're going to have our micro tears that we need to fix. We can manage this through food. So we can have things like chicken breast or eggs. But you can also have supplements, artificial supplements like protein bars or protein powder and shake, which are really popular. And the reason they're popular, obviously, is because they're convenient and they're easy, and they've got lots of vitamins in them as well. But they don't fill you up in the same way. So if you are training hard and actually the amount of protein that you need to take on board is quite excessive or quite large amounts, then it's often easier to consume these with artificial supplements. If we do not have sufficient amounts of protein, then we are not going to be able to repair our micro tears. We're going to have lack of growth, so lack of muscle hypertrophy, or little or no gains in strength and power. If we are not fixing our micro tears, we're not getting bigger, we're not getting stronger, then obviously we increase our chance of injury as well. So I want you to copy this link if you can, type it in, Village Gym. You can put protein calculator and it will come up, and you should see the page like this. It's a wonderful little page, and you can put all of your results in here to find out how much protein that you need daily. Could you do that for a task, please, and jot that down for me? So we're going to try a question now then. Jane is a gymnast who performs in a floor routine requiring power for up to 90 seconds. Suggest a protein-based nutritional strategy to aid her recovery. Please pause the video, write your answer and then check. So hopefully you've gone for the 3-part answer again, please. So the fact we've got here is Jane should consume her recommended daily amount per kilogram of body weight over the day. Using supplements when eating is not convenient to her. This would ensure she has enough protein or amino acids to repair micro tears caused by her high intensity performance. Supplementing can enable her to take on board nutrients without feeling too uncomfortable and enable her recovery process to start. If she rests after the event, her muscles will repair and grow, increasing her power for future performances. So let's have a look at nutritional strategies for carbohydrate and protein and just reiterate everything that we've gone through so far. First of all, it's important that an athlete calculates their RDAs of the macronutrients, their recommended daily amounts of carbohydrate and protein. They must hydrate and rehydrate. We're coming on to that next. They can supplement their normal diet to ensure they've got enough carbohydrate for energy to complete the task and enough protein for repair and growth to prevent injury. So you've got a cause and an effect on both of those, 2 parts. So to recap, if we don't have enough carbohydrate, we won't have enough energy for maintenance of performance, so our performance will deteriorate. If we don't have enough protein, it's going to be an increased recovery time, reduced hypertrophy, and increased chance of injury. And if we have too much carbohydrate or protein, we're going to increase in weight and our body fat percentage because we're taking on calories that we're not using. Take another pause in the video if you need to. So this is the last section of hydration. So it's so important to stay hydrated and after an activity rehydrate, even if you're not feeling dehydrated. And I don't know whether you're aware, but one of the signs of being severely dehydrated is actually feeling hungry, which is why they say you should always have a glass of water before you eat. So why do we need to stay hydrated? Well, if we are dehydrated, our blood flow is thicker, it's more viscous. Now, if you think about it, we've got gloopy blood going around the system, our blood flow is going to slow down. If we've got slow blood flow, we are not going to deliver the nutrients such as glucose or the oxygen as quick as we need it by the muscle cells to produce energy. We're also not going to be able to transport the waste products away from the system, so they're going to build up and we're going to fatigue a lot quicker. So remember, if it's thick, it's slow. Hydration increases lubrication of the joints as well, and we know this from section A1 that lubrication of the joints reduces friction, allowing us to have freely movable joints, which improves our technique and can improve our power if we can move over a greater range of distance. Hydration also ensures that our temperature is regulated. If the blood can freely flow to the skin, it can release the heat. If it's thick and gloopy and slow, we're not going to be able to release that heat. Our thermoreceptors are going to detect that we've got an increase in heat, and eventually it's going to cause us to fatigue and to slow down and to stop. So let's try a quick question on hydration. Richard is a 10-kilometre runner. Explain how fluid is lost during his performance and why it is so important he prevents dehydration. Stop the video for me and write your answer. So 3-point answer again. We've got that Richard should take on water frequently to prevent dehydration and ensure efficient blood flow. Hydration ensures blood flow is quick and that nutrients can be transported, oxygen can be transported, and waste products can be taken out of the body at the speed required for performance to be at its optimum. Dehydration causes the blood to become thicker. This reduces flow, and therefore Richard will have insufficient nutrients and oxygen delivery to the muscles for contraction and energy. He will overheat and he will experience less movement at his joints. So we've got different types of hydration. Obviously water is our best tonic. We've got water, we should take it on board before, because we should be hydrated before we start an activity. We should sip drinks throughout the activity, and we should drink at the end of the activity. However, if you are doing an endurance event, you may need a little more than that, either during or at the end. So let's have a look at our options. The first one we've got is the isotonic drink. It has moderate levels of carbohydrate in it. It's quite fast absorption. It actually has a similar constituent to blood in terms of the number of solids there are, so it can be absorbed into the bloodstream quite quickly, more than you need to know for your spec. It's used for energy and hydration during events. Hypertonic actually contains very high levels of carbohydrate, and it's regulated for slow release, so it's not fast absorption, it's slow and regulated release. So if you sip this throughout an event, it should keep your glucose levels quite high all the way through. The first one, these isotonic, would probably be needed if you were feeling a little fatigued, for example. So the hypertonic, high levels of carbohydrate, regulated slow release and used for energy predominantly. It also has the added benefit of replacing electrolytes for muscle contraction to offset fatigue. So electrolytes are things like potassium and sodium that we require for nervous impulses to the muscle fibres, for example. It is not ideal to actually hydrate, so you would need to take on water on top of this hypertonic drink. Hypotonic is the opposite, if you like, to the hypertonic. It has very low levels of carbohydrate. It is the fastest to absorb because it actually has less solid constituents in it than the blood, so it's absorbed into our bloodstream quickly, and it is used to rehydrate after the event. Let's try a task. Suggest a nutritional strategy for an athlete who is taking part in a triathlon. Consider the before, during and after. Include considerations of carbohydrate, protein and hydration. Please pause the video while you write your answer. This one's going to take you quite a while. So in your answer, I would hope that you have included some of the following. We've talked about carbohydrate being the RDA is about 70%, used for energy, used to replenish glycogen stores. May have put some food examples in of brown bread, brown pasta, etc. You could have mentioned supplements such as gel packs and isotonic drinks. Carbo loading or glycogen loading could have been explained that you reduce your intensity of activity but keep your RDA the same as the week to try and replenish your stores and maximise your stores. You could have mentioned, as I've mentioned, that isotonic. You could have had hypertonic drinks as well during, and your hypotonic afterward to rehydrate. And you may have talked about the golden window, that 2-hour window at the end of activity where you can metabolise carbohydrate much quicker. So it reduces your recovery time. Protein, you would have mentioned again your RDA per kilogram of body weight. You have it throughout the day. It's to prevent injury and to help you recover quickly. It is from training at high intensities where you're going to get these micro tears. And you may have mentioned amino acids as well, and that they are going to be for growth and repair and hypertrophy of the muscles. Hydration, you would have mentioned that you would have water throughout the activity. I would hope that you've stuck to the 3-part question as well and put your reasoning and impact for each one. But have a little look and see if you've included all of those in there. That would be a typical 15 marker. That was a big video, well done. Have a look at the tasks on the OneNote as well, please, and do the rest of the tasks on there so you really get to know this topic area. Well done.